Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is our third LinkedIn Live event. Really pleased about this one, where the focus is on what are the corporate drivers or the main drivers to launch a supplier diversity program. So we'll talk through a few of them today and explain on each point. More and more now organizations are really focusing on launching a supplier diversity program, and for various reasons. But ultimately, now companies recognize the importance of fostering diversity, both for the sake of building a positive culture internally, but also externally to support the influence in the industries they operate in, but also to support the drive to competitive bottom line results. And I explain what I mean. So one of the main drivers for a supplier diversity program is a corporate social responsibility agenda. Okay, so supplier diversity is often seen as a crucial aspect of a company CSR initiatives, so corporate social responsibility initiatives. So by actively supporting and engaging with diverse suppliers, then businesses demonstrate their commitment to the economic development and growth of underrepresented community. And here what we mean by diverse suppliers is suppliers that are at least 51% owned by underrepresented group. So for example, it could be women, ethnic minorities, or veterans, or people with disabilities, or LGBTQ plus individuals, just for example. So that's one of the main drivers, alignment with the CSO agenda, especially the social aspect, similar to ESG, and again, the S in the social aspect, and that's where supplier diversity fits in. So that's one of the main drivers. Another driver is to improve their business supply chain competitiveness. Right? Ideally, you want a diverse supplier base, which we offer various benefits, including, as long as you foster it, innovation, access to new market via those diverse suppliers, rather than going through the usual routes, usual suppliers. You start to diversify, you get different perspective, you enter new markets. You also get a more agile supply chain. It was really tested during the pandemic, where organizations had a more diverse supply chain were better able to cope with the drastic changes linked to COVID and the pandemic. And then the key is to integrate those diverse suppliers. And if you do, then you can gain a competitive edge and strengthen your supply chain. So that's one of the other drivers, improving your supply chain resilience and competitiveness. Then a third driver that we're seeing more and more often now is customer requirements or compliance with government requirements. Right, so especially in the infrastructure construction industry, as an example, we really see this demand from the government or for some key government contractors asking their suppliers to ensure there is diversity in their supply chain. And in some cases, customers demand that companies they work with have supplier diversity programs in place. They want to understand, if I'm spending money with you as a business, how much of this money will then go to diverse suppliers. Additionally, certain government contracts and regulation may require businesses to also demonstrate the effort toward diversity and inclusion in their supply chain. So for example, in the infrastructure industry, HS2 will set some DE&I standards to their suppliers and what they expect to see in terms of recruitment, diversity in recruitment, diversity in terms of representation throughout the organizations. So those are they will also expect those suppliers to be accredited in the E&I, and that's where a clear company via ClearShare provide those solutions of D&I accreditation, D&I standards to companies. Now, fourth driver is the overall alignment with your organization DEI goals. So many companies now have clear DEI goals or targets to create a more inclusive and representative business environment. And then the supplier diversity program will contribute to these goals, right? By engaging with diverse businesses, diversifying supply chain, as I mentioned earlier. That's part of the effort of influencing D&I, proactively supporting D&I, not only internally, but also in your external environment. What we also see, and what I advocate for a lot with our client, is it's not only to contract with diverse businesses, it's also to establish the DEI standards for suppliers. That's a way to extend your commitment to diversity beyond your internal operation. And the main drivers of doing that is creating this ripple effect. So when a large or even medium-sized organization set D&I standards for its suppliers, it creates a ripple effect throughout the supply chain. The suppliers in turn are encouraged to implement their own diversity initiatives. It might be a standard around expecting your suppliers to be disability confident, or specifically your recruitment suppliers to have an accreditation in D&I before they can work with you and bring you in candidates for roles you require. It's also a way to amplify your social impact. So going back to the CSR agenda, by demanding that suppliers follow some key D&I principles and standards, then you can amplify your social impact and your impact in our society. It will contribute to foster also economic growth and job opportunities for underrepresented groups, which therefore contributing to a more equitable society. Another driver to really set those standards is also to enhance your brand and reputation, especially for large corporates that have heavy influence in their sector, in the industry, in our society. Taking a proactive stance on supply diversity, setting those standards will likely also enhance their brand reputation, in addition of having this positive impact in our society. Consumers and stakeholders increasingly now value businesses that prioritize this social responsibility and demonstrate a clear commitment to inclusive business and practices. And so those are some of the common drivers to setting those DE&I standards. So just as a quick recap, I went through quite a few key drivers quite quickly. So one main driver is the corporate social responsibility agenda. Another one is improving the supply chain competitiveness and resilience. Having more diverse suppliers encourages resilience and agility in your supply chain. Another key driver is to meet customer requirements and government compliance. And I would add to that actually is anticipating those future requirements. It's only going one way. We see the trends where large corporate and governments are really increasingly demanding as part of their tenders, as part of their contract, to have some specific standards when it comes to D&I. And then the last point was the alignment with the corporate D&I goals. Around driving D&I internally, creating an inclusive working environment, but then applying that externally to your supply chain. And hence me explaining some of the key drivers around your social impact, the ripple effect on those suppliers and their own supply chain, and then the indirect effect on your brand reputation, which again is linked back to this ESG or CSR agenda. Those are really the main drivers to launch a corporate program, which ultimately is about this positive impact, not internally but also externally, really this external impact that all companies have. So I hope it gave you a good sense of what are the main drivers and why it's important to really launch such program. And then if you have any questions, happy to discuss in more details with you and also explain how best we can support either creating a program, launching it, ensuring it's effective. We provide various solutions of consultancy or via our Clear Assured to help you set those standards to your suppliers. So again, more than happy to have those conversations with you if you would like to find out more. So thank you, and have a great rest of the day.